In this video, I'm going to show you how to navigate to the FAO data that we're going to use to look at agricultural yields. Now this data is in a database called FAO Stat, and the easiest way to find it is actually just to type that into Google or another search engine. And usually your first hit will be this, FAO Stat. It's from FAO.org. We click that. The Food and Agriculture Organization is run out of the United Nations. They collect data on agricultural statistics. They do some really interesting reports on agricultural trend. And the data access is actually one of the better sources of data that you can find. So this is actually a pretty neat site for a lot of different things. Two ways in. You can go in via data up on the upper left-hand corner, or you can just explore data. And you'll get to a page like this. FAO Stat tracks a lot of different things. You can see production, trade, food balances. If you're interested in malnutrition, food balances, the statistic block that you would want to use. For us, though, we're interested in crops and we're interested in production. So I'm going to go into crops. And I'm going to have a lot of different options here of what I want to look at. And this layout's actually the same across the entire FAO site. So it works here, but it also works for all the other data if you ever want to get something else. Right, so you have upper left, countries, upper right, the data type that you're going to look at. Lower left, the crop types, and the lower right are the years. So I'm just going to grab a couple countries. Let's just take Afghanistan and China. You can take as many as you want, or you can do regions, including the world or North America, or you can do it by economic groups. That's what special group is. And then we're going to go over here to elements. Area harvested is the total area in the country that is under a crop. Production quantity is the total quantity produced in the country. Yield is what we want, which is going to be production per unit area. So that's the one I'm going to pick. And then down here on the lower left, you've got a lot of different things. So aggregated items are going to be like all the cereal crops or all the citrus fruit. We can go in and actually just look for maize for this exercise. Maize is the same thing as corn. We'd grab that and take all the data we can get. Now you have a couple different options for export down here. You can see them here, table, pivot, which is an inverted version of a table, comma delimited text file, Excel file is XLS. So first, if you just want to see whether or not there are data for the countries you picked, you can just do show data, and it'll show you right here, right below. Now you could copy and paste this, but FAO makes it really easy. So if you do table, take the XLS format, and you download the data. I'm going to open that with Excel. All right, I have the data in front of me. Now there's a bunch of extra information here that you probably are not going to want, but you have your country in the column D. Afghanistan or China are the two that I picked. You're not going to worry about element code. It means something to someone, but probably not to you. Just double check that you got yield, double check that you got maize here, and then you've got years. Done two different ways, so you only need one of those. You have the units, just make sure you know what those are, and then you have the value. So what I would tend to do would be clean up all the things that you don't need. Don't need 2 years. You already know that you're looking at maize, so that doesn't really matter. You already know that you're looking at yields. You can probably get rid of all this. And all of that's not really that useful. And you've got Afghanistan, you've got the years. And now I'm just going to clean stuff up a little bit, delete the columns. And FAO always stacks the data like this, so you have to clean that depending on how you want to look at it. Probably the easiest thing is to just move it here. Make sure you're tracking what you do. And from this point on, you can actually do the analysis you need to do. So in prior work in this class, we've already gone through how you convert units. So if you want to change this from hectograms to hectare, you can do a unit conversion here, whatever that might be, times 1,000 times that particular cell will give you a new number. So I would suggest you do something like that. Once you're ready, you can graph the resulting data. So you have something here you can look at. Some crops are going to have big trends, some are not. So when you go through this exercise, if you want to be using data that with clear trends, then just look at it beforehand. You can always switch countries if you want to do that. Other countries will not. Afghanistan, you can see, goes up and down a lot here from 2000 to 2020. That is because of war and conflict, right? So production sometimes represents real world changes. Sometimes there are errors in data. In many countries, you will see a broad trend. In fact, in Afghanistan, you see a slow upward trend as you go from 1960 to 2000. So just have a look at your data. Everything you're going to do from here on out is like prior assignments. Fit a linear fit to the data. That's a right click, add trend line, linear, show the equation, show the R squared, and you're off and running. So once you get going, just make sure you're paying attention to your data, make sure you're doing the unit conversions correctly, make sure you're working in the application version of Excel and not the online version. Otherwise, you won't have access to the trend line function. If you do all that, you should be able to work through this pretty quickly, and you can start making the interesting comparisons to see how yields have changed over time and also to see how the yields are different between countries. All right, good luck.